Welcome back. We are glad you are still keeping us company. And in case you are just joining us, karibu tena sana. I am Jain Wambui. Our communication platforms are open. The hashtag ever remains to be Good Morning Kenya. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is Jain Wambui across all the social media platforms. We now get started with Women at the Forefront, all about Magerldens. And today we have a brilliant young lady with us in studio. She is Kageni Kimathi, who's an advocate of the High Court, and she also heads corporate and commercial unit at the MMTK law firm. Good morning.
Good morning, Jain.
Karibu sana. Good morning, Kenya.
Thank you.
Thank you for gracing us today. Are you on the social media platforms?
Yes, I am.
How can our viewers interact with you?
All the social media handles, it's Kageni Kimathi.
Kageni Kimathi.
Yes.
All right. So again, anything you feel hutaki kutuma hapa on this national platform, you can always direct to her, but just be appropriate and be nice. Women at the Forefront is all about celebrating women. Yeah. But before we even get deeper, MMTK.
Yes.
What does that stand for?
So MMTK law firm is a law firm that is based, it's actually in Nairobi. MMTK is the initials of all the four partners.
Oh, okay.
That's Muri, Mwaniki, Fige, and Kageni.
Lawyers are naming their businesses after themselves.
Yes, we have to. We have worked so hard.
Wambui Kibera. Jain Wambui. Awesome. Yeah. So we want to understand where your journey starts. You know, you're a lawyer, of course, practicing, and you know, looking at all spaces and all areas of working, we find that growing up, lawyer, doctor, pilot, ganingine, and engineer. Those are the staple careers that everyone aspires to be at some point. Yeah. Was that the dream for you growing up?
No, it was not. Actually, growing up, there's no lawyer in our family, like no uncle, auntie, distant relative. I had not interacted with any lawyer in my life.
What did you want to be?
I wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a primary school teacher.
Oh,
because
wow.
My mom was a primary school teacher and she seemed very content and happy with what she does. So like when I grow up, that is exactly
like mom.
Yes. So actually, even through high school, I was so sure I want to be a teacher. So that of course was my first choice, to do teaching. I think law was not maybe second or third, I don't know, but somehow I was called to do law and not teaching.
Was it one of the areas that you had selected, or
yes, I'd selected because my friend's dad was a lawyer. So when we were selecting, so she's like, Ama, you put law. I'm like, okay, let me put law. So I put law, and that's how I was called to do law. And from there, right now I can't even imagine being something else, not being a lawyer. So
and how has it been since you got into the space? Because of course now we are living in a time where careers are, men and women have almost equal opportunities, but looking back, it was rare to find the feminine women in the law space. How was it for you when you were starting compared to how it is now?
I would say by the time we were getting in, by the time, for example, when I was doing my degree, we were actually more ladies in class than men. So I think the journey has been easier for us because there are so many great women, lawyers, who have gone ahead of us and straightened the paths for us and prepared the way for us. So it was not so hard. It wasn't such a big deal that you're doing some of these things. Even some of the roles and positions you get offered as a woman lawyer, you'll understand there's a woman before you. So it's kind of, you get comfortable because somebody else has been there. You don't have to be proving anything. Yes. So I would really actually appreciate all the women who went before us and did all these things for us. So it's not been so hard. And I think as women, we are not very few, or we are probably the same number, if not more, lawyers, women
in the country.
Yes, but I think the thing is, in courts we see a lot of men. I think women like not going to court. Probably, of course, there's so many other lawyers who don't go to court. Yes. So I think those are the majority. But we are almost the same, if not more, when it comes to the legal profession.
I like that. Yeah. I like that we are seeing a shift, actually, especially when it comes to the numbers, because numbers never lie and they speak volumes. So how has, the family is a vital role for any person's career. And in terms of support and it being a solid source of support system for you, how has that been for you?
family is everything. It's everything for sure. Of course, as I said, there was absolutely no lawyer, so there's no one to look up to or to refer some things to. But
you didn't get any discouragement. Unajua law inakuanga na mashida mingi. Mbona usijaribu hii? Now, parents, out of love.
Yes. But actually, I think because they did not know, they were very open to it. I'm not used to tell like, that's how things happen. Let me try and help you with that. So I have never faced any kind of discouragement from my parents. Actually, they were my number one supporters. Yes. Even if they didn't really understand or know, this is what we are doing after this. After university, you go to Kenya School of Law. Okay, they didn't understand, but they were there for me 100%, and I believe I am where I am because of them, majorly because of them. So of course that support system is very important, and also law is not easy, especially when, I don't know if you guys hear about Kenya School of Law and how hard it is. Yes, KSL. People say, whoa, you survived KSL. So of course you'll need a lot of support, a lot of network of friends. You need a very good network around you at that time, which I received, and I am very grateful for that. So as you're saying, family is everything. I don't know what else to add. Yes.
And has being a woman ever been used against you in your line of duty, in whatever space, whether it be the courts or in the offices or interacting with the common mwananchi out there?
Yeah, okay, not very much, but yes, of course it has. At times there are clients you will get who are more comfortable a man handling their matters, especially, okay, at times I say understandably so, because for example, if it's a divorce case and the client who has come to the firm is the man, that client would want or would feel better when they're talking to a man as opposed to a woman. But those are very few cases far in between. Most of the time, I don't get any opposition being a woman. I think bringing your femininity is actually a positive to, in my career, it has always been a positive. Yeah. Someone will feel maybe you're more gracious than a man because, of course, you're a woman. Someone will feel you understand more, you empathize more in their matters, because as lawyers, you get to tell a lawyer the secretive things in your life, and as a woman somehow you understand more, or you're more empathetic, or it always works for me. It's hardly an issue for me.
That's beautiful. Yeah. You know, bringing yourself into your professional space, because there's no greater joy. Mukionanga ninashema hapa. My roots. It as well. Now, you had the corporate and commercial unit. Yes. What does that entail? What does it cover? Okay,
so there are different specialties in law, and different lawyers specialize in different things in law. Of course, there are those ones who do everything, but like in our firm, we've chosen to specialize. So as I said, I had the corporate and commercial unit that entails all kinds of advising all kinds of companies and corporates, NGOs, CBOs, societies, from incorporation to how they operate, to how the compliances they're supposed to undertake. That also covers the intellectual property registration and how to handle your intellectual property when it comes to trademarks, copyrights, patents. All that falls under there. Also, it entails company secretarial work. That is when it comes to organizing board meetings, knowing how to draft those meetings and board resolutions. If you need to restructure your company, to remove some directors, to add shareholders, all that falls under that. And also now, the other thing is estate management planning. That is advising people on when or how to draft wills, how to set up family trusts to own family properties. All that falls under, that is part of my day-to-day work.
All right. Yeah. Now, when it comes to dealing with this, and I like the fact that you've brought in, you know, the aspect of wealth, because be as it may, we're in the 21st century, we are still very patriarchal. You know, everything when it comes to leading, when it comes to property, men are at the forefront, but today it's women at the forefront. Now, when it comes to advising women, when it comes to, you know, how you manage your wealth, and also the conversations around wills, what's been your experience, and especially dealing with women?
Now, interestingly, I have actually drafted more wills for women than men. Probably it's because women are more deliberate when it comes to I know one day I won't be here.
Planning for the future.
Yes, how will my children be? And more importantly, it happens that most of also these women are single, maybe single parents. Especially when a woman is a single parent, they are more intentional. If I'm not there, who will take care of my children? Because actually in your will, you can indicate who will take care of your child when you're not there. Instead of letting a stranger make those decisions for you, because I would call a court a stranger. They don't know the intricacies of your family. So letting your child, your court decide on how much should my firstborn get, which land should my secondborn get. Why do that? You'd rather just put it very clearly down in writing. Also indicate if the child is not 18, this and this. Talk to your sister, talk to your brother, talk to your mom. I would want them to take care of my child. So I find that women are more intentional about this, which encourage all other women to ensure they do their wills. But also men do a lot of their wills, but at times you'll find they have been pushed by their wives. I don't know why people have bibi alisema ameshika mkono akakuza. And at times people have this notion that maybe if I'm doing a will, I am predicting my death, I'm jinxing myself. It doesn't happen. You write wills and they stay in the safe for 20 years. So,
all right.
Yeah.
But one would argue, I don't have much to leave my kids, so why should I put a will in place? What's some of the vital reasons from a legal standing and just looking at the law, the power that a will holds, in as much as you may not have this vast estates or wealth, but just by virtue of even having children?
Okay. So, first of all, a will is important because it will help you identify your assets. By this, I mean that at times you find that probably a husband passes on and the wife does not even know that there are properties which were there. That's the unfortunate bit about that, is that other people probably are going to take over those properties and your family will never enjoy the fruits.
And these are things that you've experienced firsthand.
Yes, I experience them all the time. The other thing is, when you identify those, you don't even have to tell her, but at least you've identified them, such that if you're not there, the lawyer will tell, these are all the properties, and she'll know where to start. The other thing is, people say that I do not have property, therefore I don't, what am I putting down in the will? Unfortunately, at times you might, even on your death, you might die and still get an estate. If you're hit by a bus today and you pass on, probably your estate will go to court and you might be awarded 20 million. Where is that 20 million going to go? That is going to be part of your estate. And if you have not decided how it's going to go, probably it's going to fall in the wrong hands. The other thing is that there are things you don't even have to, it's not necessarily that you put assets in your will. You can put, as I'm saying, things like how you'd want
instructions.
Yes, you can put how you'd want your body to be buried. Do you want it to be cremated? How do you want, if you want to donate part of your organs, that's okay. You can put that down in writing. You can also put some of your wishes in terms of, I would want my child to do this for me, I would want this one and this one to do. There's certain instructions you can put down in a will, not necessarily how to distribute property. You can also identify family. Of course, there are people who have other children out of wedlock, and maybe either of the spouse does not know. Instead of people coming on the burial date to say, and you know they're going to come. So just put it down. No one will know. It's you and your lawyer who will know. But at that time, when you're not there, there's no embarrassment when you're dead.
Come by and by.
People will come. You'll have already provided for them. You'll say, this is my child. I will provide this and this for them. Yeah. So it's very important to always write a will. And the most important thing, as I'd said, if you're a single parent, you can choose who will take care of your child.
The legal custodian.
Yes. There's no need of a court to start deciding your friend is better than your sister or your sister is better than your mother. You can make that very clear because you have talked to them beforehand and told them, if I'm not there, I would want you to take care of my child. And if they agree, put it down in writing, and that can be upheld by court.
Okay. Yeah. Now, most of the times whenever we are having these battles after someone has died and left an estate, you hear, I leave this % of my estate to this particular child in trust of this particular person. What does that mean? Held in trust by this person for my child.
So when a child is below 18, they cannot own property in their own name. So most of the time you can leave somebody else to hold the property in trust. So for example, I can leave Wambui to hold in trust for my daughter. So that means that once my daughter gets to the age of 18, Wambui will be obligated to transfer the property to my daughter. The other thing would be, you can also leave instructions on how you as a trustee will give that property to the child, because at times it's not, you may not see it wise to give an 18-year-old who has just completed high school
100 million.
100, exactly. Maybe they wouldn't even know how to deal with that.
Yes.
But as a trustee, you can say, in the first 4 years, release this amount of money for education, release this amount of money for upkeep. Then when they turn 23 or 30, give the rest of the amount. You can always structure how the gift can be given progressively. At times you can put conditions. Once, if she does not attain university, that money does not go to her, it will go to someone else. You can put such kind of instructions in your will.
And on what grounds can a will be contested and rendered null and void?
Anyone can contest a will, of course. Whether you succeed or not is something different. But when you go to, most of the time when you go to a lawyer, a good lawyer will advise you on the things you have to put in your will, so that it's very hard to contest. If you have dependents are people you have been taking care of before you die, and the other people who are considered dependents, whether or not you took care of them. That is your spouse and your children, whether or not they are from your marriage. Those are your dependents. So if, for example, I have 4 children and I provide for 3 children and leave out 1 without any kind of reason, of course that child can contest that will, and that will can be set aside, and there can be distribution
determined.
Yes.
Okay.
But if it doesn't mean that you have to provide for your children equally, no. What you have to do is give reasons why you're not. For example, you can say, the reason why I'm giving this 1 million and this 100 million is because this one is 8 years old and I think she's going to have more needs in future. Or because during my lifetime, I've already passed so much wealth to this one, and that's why I'm not going to give her this. Or because our relationship was very strained and I think that she's not been a good child. So you have to give reasons, and court will consider such reasons in case the will is contested. But if you remain silent, you're trying to make the judge make assumptions, and they won't. They're just going to set aside the will. So it's always good to give reasons. You can also give a background in case you've given property to this person. Indicate that. Yeah. So one of the reasons why it can be contested, as I said, one is either you've left out a dependent. If it's not been properly signed, you have to say there has to be 2 independent witnesses. So if a witness is not independent, by independent I mean if the person who's signing is a beneficiary. So maybe I'm the one who's getting 100 million. I'm there saying I have witnessed that you. Of course, that is not going to be an independent witness. So have people who are not benefiting in the will sign or witness your will. Then the other thing is in case there are things which do not make sense, there are contradictions. Parts of the will can be invalidated. In case you have willed out or you have bequeathed a property that is not yours, that part can be invalidated. In case you're not of sound mind, and this is when people are becoming very old, and unfortunately that's when people start thinking of going, maybe you're critically ill, is when people are like, let's do a will. That is not the best time to do a will. But anyway, if you want to do a will at that time, there are certain things you have to do. For example, ensure you get a doctor to say that you're just lucid and you are in good mind, or you can remember everything at that point, such that you can remember your properties and your beneficiaries. So such things can invalidate a will if there is good evidence or evidence enough to show that you are either not of good mind or you are coerced. Maybe if you're not very well, then somebody's there saying, do a will. No, that looks like or undue influence, and that can invalidate a will.
But we've seen instances where, and this is from a personal experience, where somebody says, as much as this will was written, let's say 2019, I have this written piece of paper with them saying anything prior to this is null and void, with their signature and date, everything, handwritten. How do you handle such a situation where there was previously a will, but then here comes another handwritten note that is signed and, you know, with different instructions?
Okay. So a will, the most recent will is usually the one that is valid, because you can always keep on updating a will, or you can keep on doing codicils. Codicils are like part of a will. You can amend. For example, if I do a will that is 20 pages, then tomorrow I decide, there's a property I left out, I write it somewhere else, that is also going to be part of the will, but it's a codicil. As long as it has fulfilled all the requirements of a will, including signing or by independent witnesses, and that you're also of sound mind at that time of doing that codicil. So you can always update a will. You can always have other documents supporting that will, as long as they are signed as or like the way the will was signed. So there's no problem if there's another paper that arises
or
that
even
has
an audio recording.
No, for audio recording is a bit different, because we have, what we're talking about right now is written wills.
Okay.
Audio recording can be considered an oral will. An oral will is only valid for 3 months. So if the person does not pass on within 3 months, that cannot be considered a valid will.
All right.
Yeah.
And that actually brings me to the different circumstances in which a will can now come into can be enforced aside from death. Are there any circumstances that can bring a will to life, or can, you know, allow for a will to be read out and the testament declared?
No.
Only in death.
Can only be, yes, it's only valid. It only comes alive when the testator dies. You cannot start distributing or saying that I'm supposed to get this when the person is alive. No. However, a person who is alive can still bequeath or pass property to their beneficiaries when they are still alive. That is still allowed. Yes, but you can never go to court and say that let's use this will when somebody is in hospital. No. The only thing now you can invoke at that time is maybe when the person is not mentally, or maybe is very sick, or maybe in a coma or such things. There are ways you can go to court to ask to now take over management of their estate, but you cannot start distributing the estate to yourself. But you can manage the estate as a trustee and always give account in court or to the other beneficiaries. Yes, but you can never transfer it in your name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as we bring the conversation to a close, this is something that I came across a while back with, and I believe you also came across the story of this guy back in the 90s. The owner of the estate died, and they didn't know of any biological children. Some jamaa kakuja kasema, I am the only living child of this particular tycoon, and everything should be left to me. In such cases where there aren't any identified survivors of, you know, the deceased who had the owner of this particular estate, but then somebody comes and says, I am so and so to this person. How is that situation handled legally to just prove and avoid a situation like in that particular case, 24 years down the line, amekula, well, the extended family have been trying to contest, saying this is not our family?
Yeah. So there is in law there are levels of consanguinity in terms of levels of relatives. So of course there's usually the first layer, the children and the spouse, then there's the grandchildren and the brothers and sisters. It goes like that. So if you are able to satisfy that you're not from every layer, you cannot find any person, the next thing is that the property should revert to the government. It should revert to the I'm forgetting the name.
Unclaimed assets?
Not unclaimed assets. It's coming and going. Okay, I've forgotten the name, but it goes back to the government, to the he's called the trust. No. I forgot.
There's a trust somewhere.
Yes, there's a trust somewhere. So it goes to them, and they're the ones who decide how it's going to be divided. However, if this person could prove that they were a dependent does not necessarily have to be a family member, but to prove that this person was maintaining me during their lifetime. For example, I used to food, shelter, clothing. They're the ones who they were taking care of everything for me. That person can still be entitled to inherit part of
All right, and I cannot close without the most recent adjustment that was made to the law of succession just the other day. Walikuwa wanasema slay queens wamefungiwa nje, be gone ye. Legally speaking, you know, we are alive to the fact that we have so many people who are having extramarital affairs. And during burials, that's when, you know, people come declaring, and one of the instances that was given by, you know, the proponent of that particular law is a situation where 20 women showed up at the burial, and by the time they were finishing up with the court proceedings, one of the women had squandered almost half of the estate that was left. Moving forward, what are the consequences that will be coming after the adjustment of this particular law of succession?
I think this law of succession, the amendment, it was not completely well thought out. The reason I'm saying this, first of all, yes, it solved the issue of men before could not inherit from their wives because spouse only talked about wives, it didn't talk about husbands. So at least now they have put spouses to include men and I mean husband and wife, that's a spouse, so even
inheriting each other.
Yes. But the other thing is they say the spouse is as per the definition in the Marriage Act. The Marriage Act says that all marriages are supposed to be registered. Most of the marriages in Kenya are not registered. People live together for 20-30 years, but they don't have any certificate or any document to show for it. So according to that law, it means that those are not recognized. You're not married. So yes, you're trying to live out this mpango wa kando, yes, but what about this other woman, these presumed marriages which are not recognized in the Marriage Act? So I don't know whether it's the Marriage Act or the Succession Act that needs to be amended to recognize such kind of marriages, because not all married Kenyans have a certificate with them.
But doesn't the law says after 6 months of cohabiting, you are considered married?
That was before.
That's another loophole.
That was before. Then the Marriage Act that came I think it was 2014. It said that all marriages are supposed to be registered. So even though you did your traditional marriage and you went and did all those ceremonies, you still have to go to the Registrar of Marriages and register your marriage. People don't do that. People always think that as long as I do the civil marriage or the church wedding, or those are the only ones that I need certificate for. But nowadays they're saying as long as you have any kind of marriage, go and get a certificate. So I would want to see how the courts interpret that kind of that kind of scenario, especially when people have been married for so long, but they don't have anything. Does it mean that I'm not a wife, or you're not a husband? I would want to see that.
Ooh, this law, whoever sat down and drew it, this and this will happen, except in the situation that this happens. Now, but as we close this conversation, maybe just your message of encouragement to our women, and especially looking at that aspect where wealth is involved. You may not be alive to other affairs that maybe your partner may be having, but when it comes to registering your property and also understanding who is supposed to be the next of kin, because that is also another great area. Zishikanisha zote.
So I want to encourage all women, take part in the decision making of property acquisition in your family, because either way you're taking part, whether you're contributing financially, whether you're contributing non-financially, all that is considered contribution. So make sure you're taking part in terms of yes, we say ni mapenzi, therefore I trust him. No, yes, we trust each other, but you don't know who will go first. So just make sure all properties are in the names of both of you. If it's not jointly is 50-50, then you can even own 70-30, 60-40, but just make sure your name appears there. Then secondly, make sure that in case you do not want, the two of you find it very hard only putting everything in both names, have a family company whereby you, your spouse and your children can have shares in the company, and everything can be in the name of that company. That makes things much easier. So when it comes to next of kin, it's always good. Think about it critically, who you'd want your next of kin, because some of the properties we're talking about here, or some of the assets do not qualify to go in the will. For example, your retirement benefit, that does not go to the will because you'll have nominated someone as your next of next of kin or your beneficiary, and that's the person who's going to get whatever is included there. At times, shares in a circle, there's somebody you'll nominate there as your beneficiary. That's the person who's going to get whatever comes from there. So make sure you're very careful who you're putting there. Most of the women you'll find that they put their moms because they did that when they were single, or they always put their moms. So maybe their mom is not there anymore, or their mom will go before them. So
does
make sure you update.
Have to be related to you by blood?
No, that person does not have to. Yeah. So you can put your child, you can put your best friend, you can put anyone.
Whoever. Just think it out very critically.
Yeah, just know that whatever benefit is arising from that person will get that benefit.
And especially in properties that outlive you.
Yes.
Okay. Hapa kuna mtu anauliza, what are your thoughts when it comes to signing prenups? Prenuptial agreements.
By the way, I am the #1 supporter of prenups.
Yeah.
Prenups have been allowed in Kenya. Go ahead, do a prenup. You know, at times we feel that ni mapenzi, therefore let's not talk about money. No, but then you raise it and maybe the person will be very happy, especially if both of you are empowered. Go ahead, do a prenup. Do a prenup, say, this is what, in case we separate, this is the extent you're going to go with, this is what I'm going to go with. As long as, but in Kenya, the prenup does not have to be, it says it does not have to be does not have to be unreasonable. So if it looks unreasonable, for example, we say, when we part, I get 0, you get 100, that is going to be challenged, because that can be challenged in court and can be nullified. Okay. So it's good to declare everyone to know where they stand in the marriage, so that also you allay fears of I'm getting in because of some financial benefit. It's always good to have a prenup. Okay, and just clarity on prenuptials agreement.
Yes. Just for the benefit of our viewers, so that we don't presume unajua prenup ni nini. Watu tunaisikianga kwa movie. Hata mimi mara ya kwanza nilisikia kwa movie. But for the benefit of a viewer, I have someone asking, what about the wealth I acquire before we get married? Does it belong to both of us after marriage, or what is the way there? Because this now prenup comes smack in the middle of that.
Yes, so whatever you acquire before your marriage, that is yours, and that is not part of the matrimonial property, or it's not going to be shared. But this is important too, and that's why we go back to the wills and also to prenups. The prenup can be very clear on, this is what I'm getting into the marriage with, blah 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 blah, and it also states his. And therefore, when we separate, you're going to go with this, I'm going to go with this. But even if, for example, you're saying I'm already married, they cannot do a prenup. That is where will comes in. Let your will be very clear. On this one, I want it to go to this person, but on this one that we own jointly, the 50% I own will go to this and this. His 50%, he can say where he'd want to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So prenuptials stand. If you came into that marriage with a certain amount of wealth, it still remains yours and not part of the marriage.
Yes.
What you share between the time that you're married is what belongs to the both of you.
Yes, and remember, it's not what I contributed financially. Even if you bought it and I did not contribute a shilling, I can still claim from it, because my non-monetary contributions still count. Yes, because
the support I
held your hand every day. That's why you were able to buy that property.
Nilikuamsha kila siku.
Exactly.
Uende ukatafute hiyo. Nilikupigia shati pasi.
I took care of the kids when you're there, closing deals. That is part of the contribution. Yeah.
Those non-tangible aspects, which also is another gray area, but of course, due to the interest of time, that is a whole other conversation. Just the other day, we hear housewives are now entitled to a salary in certain parts. See, those are areas that we are happy about, but we don't really understand legally. What does that mean? So we will be, of course, having more of this conversation when it comes to that, understanding the law, marriages, property, they're all intertwined in a way that for so many years we have seen people drag cases in court for years on end. At the end of the day, by the time even a court comes to a decision, everything is gone. Kuna mtu mahali tu alikuwa na siphon pole. But that is that. We have been speaking with Kageni Kimathi, who is an advocate of the High Court. She also heads the corporate and commercial unit at MMTK Law Firm. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Wambui.
Remind us of your social handles once more.
All my social handles are Kageni Kimathi. So if you have a question, go there and ask. I'll be happy to answer.
Good stuff.
Yes.
And does that fall under consultation?
There are some
social media.
There are some concessions which are free up to a certain extent. But of course, we help where we can.
Yes.
But when it's, of course, it becomes full blown, now we will discuss on engagement.
Good stuff. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you for having me.
That has been Women at the Forefront. Remember, hii ndio inakuanga chama ya hapa Good Morning Kenya, talking about all matters that touch on women. Kwanza hii mambo ya chama na merry-go-round. That's also a whole other conversation we'll be looking to in future programs. But for now, we want to take a very quick breather. Mr. Director, we take a breather and then we'll be back. All right, ameniambia juu hiyo story tuko na parliament, so we need to make room for that. For now, we want to say goodbye. I am Jain Wambui. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow.